So if you don't mind, I want to
Yeah.
kind of get into the kitchen on this a little bit,
Sure.
because during our conversation before the podcast, you specifically pointed out two sources that you use, and they will hear this in the post-production of the podcast, little ding bell when I say them, because these are the two that I would go to as well. One of them is a classic. It's Wilmhurst, The Meaning of Masonry. And the other is a book that I have 3 copies of it in that bookshelf behind me, because I always give out one to our newly obligated EA. And when I sit down to work with them, I'm like, this is going to be our little class book here. And it's Kirk
nice.
McNulty's Working the Way of the Craftsman. I love that book.
Yeah.
What drew you to those two sources, and what were you taking them out, and how did you use these brothers' wisdom to educate or help the brothers of your lodge study to become better Freemasons?
So Wilmhurst is actually the sole reason I am a Mason. So I came across his work during COVID, taking my kids to bookstores. And so this was just sitting on the shelf. My grandfather was a Mason. I then after the fact realized that found out my great grandfather was as well, but they never talked about it. And so it's not like that was, I'm keeping up the lineage, my dad was an elk. And so it just wasn't a thing. But I came across this book in the bookstore, and it was just beaming at me like, all right, sounds good. And I just was in a parade with my kids' school and next to the Shriners. And so I had gotten a business card from one of those brothers. And so I was like, okay, I'll check this out. And I went through Wilmhurst's book, and it was everything where about 7 years prior to that, I'd been on a very deep exploration of self-reflection, spiritual journey. And this fit right in line with everything I was going for. And then it gave me context to apply it in the real world. That's one of the great things about actually Masonry is it gives you, and we use tools as metaphors and analogies, but it's actually practical. And it's a system that that does better men when you use it. And I think there's a shortage of that. And so that's why the education is key. So with Wilmhurst, his book is whimsical as the best. It would be that he's the optimist, whereas McNulty is a realist. I enjoy McNulty's background, and his book is pragmatic. This is Freudian psychology. This is Jungian psychology. Here's how we're going to apply this going forward, which I find fantastic. It's a great base to build forward, whereas Wilmhurst doesn't get into the minutia of why things are. It's his thoughts on the subject, his understanding, and then he just takes it to the moon and goes, well, did you know that the lodge officers represent the psyche, and here's how we do this, and here's how it applies. And the analogies are amazing. They're applicable and fascinating. So